Normally you say ladies and gentlemen. It's not all the time that I get a chance to just say ladies. It's the first audience that I have that is actually just ladies. But ladies, thank you very much for joining this afternoon. And I'm delighted to welcome you to this third global conversation organized by Athena40, a platform that promotes female leadership by connecting women to mentoring, knowledge sharing, networks, and opportunities to meet and join forces. This is an international event, in many ways one of a kind, with panel discussions taking place in parallel across different cities around the world. There's 7 cities that are operating in parallel, and then there's 2 cities in the US that will have theirs later. So we are part of the Nigeria panel. I'm based in Abuja, as is Lovina, who is supporting me for this event. Hajara, where are you joining us from today?
From Abuja as well.
You're from, okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Lagos, Nigeria.
Fantastic. So Amanda is the one for whom the card was made to say Lagos, Nigeria. Since Hajara and I are joining from Abuja, such is the power that Amanda has wielded on this forum already. Anyway, so the impact of COVID, 2020 was a year none of us could have expected. The impact of COVID on the global economy was severe, in particular on the least capable. The impact of COVID was worse. We found in particular that the impact of COVID on women was severe. It affected, many people can work remotely, many people can work virtually, but those who are in many ways at the bottom of the ladder, those who do informal jobs, those who earn a daily living, are generally unable to work virtually. And disproportionately, that seems to have affected women the most. So from an economic, social, professional, and psychological perspective, women seem to have suffered the most from COVID-19. Conversations around promoting women into decision-making roles are even more timely now. I always find it fascinating that, we have 2 hands, we would use the 2 hands. You have 2 legs, you would use the 2 hands. God deliberately made man and woman differently. I am not embarrassed as a woman that I am different from a man. I make no apologies for it. And I find it fascinating that the world seems to have developed its male capacity without developing equally its female capacity. So now more than ever, it is important that the roles that men and women play are equally developed. Men have had so long at the table that they've excluded us. And in my view, a deliberate effort actually needs to be made to bring women to the table. Not because women are incapable of sitting at the table, but because of an accident of history, men have dominated that table. If people are in a room and leave you out, you actually first need to allow them to let you into the room before a majority of you can dominate that room and stand shoulder to shoulder with them. And in my view, that's the perspective that I have of where women stand today. So this year, we will, as usual, with the previous Athena events, this third global conversation specially marks International Women's Day. And I'm delighted to be having this conversation with the 2 of you. I would actually like for you, we've got your profiles, you submitted it to the network platform, but I think it'd be useful. I always find it's a different ring to it when people introduce themselves. And I will allow both of you to introduce yourselves before I do a short intro of myself. So if we start with Amanda. Amanda, if you please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Amanda Obidike, and I would like to thank Yewande for being a wonderful host as well as the Athena40 for organizing this event. So my name is Amanda, and I'm from Lagos, Nigeria. I presently serve as the strategy lead and director of STEMI Makers Africa. STEMI Makers Africa is actually focused on addressing the leaky unemployment pipeline by equipping young Africans across 19 sub-Saharan countries with the skills, lucrative skills of the future, and to ensure that they are more experienced for Africa's workforce. I also serve as the mentor on the GTF forum, and I'll be so happy to lend my voice on today's platform.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Amanda. I could not have done that as well as you did, so I'm happy that I allowed you to introduce yourself. Hajara, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Yewande and Amanda, for the wonderful introduction. Amanda and Yewande for being a nice host. My name is Hajara Kabeer. I am a recent graduate. I was born and raised here in Nigeria. I am a petroleum and gas engineer, and I'm actually passionate about building capacity in energy, environmental sustainability, and low carbon future. And one of the things that I'm doing right now is that I aim to become a future energy leader, and I'm working successfully towards that. I also initiated the Girl in STEM initiative that helps to counter the narrative of Northern females that are being much more educationally disenfranchised. And what I basically do is that I mentor them, I coach them, be it via extracurricular activities or through mentoring sessions and stuff like that. And so far, we've achieved over 360 successful, talented young girls, and we're still counting. And then there's a movement that we do called the Give Girls Role Model. It's a movement that is aimed at normalizing role models in STEM. So basically, this is who I am and what I do.
Fantastic. Thank you, Hajara. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
For balance and fairness, before we start the conversation, I'll briefly introduce myself too. My name is Yewande Sadiku. I'm currently the Executive Secretary and CEO of Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, a role I have been in now for over 4 years. Before this role, my last job was as Executive Director, responsible for corporate and investment banking at Stanbic IBTC. So I left that job to take this one. I'd worked at that time for 23 years in banking at Stanbic IBTC and Citibank. I have many interests outside of work, but in particular, I raised funding for the film adaptation of Chimamanda Adichie's book, Half of a Yellow Sun. I am a keen enthusiast of the outdoors. And it is fascinating chatting with the two of you. I say to my children that they are my future and I am theirs. And when I look at the two of you, I mean, when I hear your stories, I think, one day you will have got, 20 years experience, 30 years experience, whatever. And that is your future. But the future of Nigeria today, even though your future is that you'll get that experience as you go along, the future of Nigeria today is actually people like you. Nigeria's wealth has for long been touted as oil. In my view, Nigeria's wealth is embedded in the fabric, in the skin, under the nails, in the hair, in the blood of young Nigerians. It is young Nigerians that will help define what this country will be, and everything that all of us can do to help young Nigerians better prepare for the reality of the future that is coming. And when I say young Nigerians, I mean the median age in Nigeria is about 18.5 years. The median age in Nigeria is 18.5 years. So anybody who is older than 18.5 years in Nigeria is kind of becoming elderly, even though 18.5 is, such a young age. But I look forward to the discussions that we will have today. And I certainly am inspired by the things that you've done and the many things that you do. And I look forward to keeping in touch with both of you, long after this event. It takes an event for us to meet, but life is like a stream of water. We flow through each other, we meet again, and we separate, and we meet again, and such as it is. But women in particular need to corner together, need to champion together. So let me start. Tell a personal story. I started with Amanda the last time. I'll start with Hajara now. A short personal story that defines who you are today. The things that mean a lot to you, where do they come from? What inspired them? Hajara.
Yeah, so you just got me thinking. I think if there's anything I would say is tracing it back to where or how it all began. That would be during my secondary school days. And I could remember before, at the end of my 6th year in school, I had a conversation with a cousin of mine. He studied electrical engineering, and I remember telling him how interested I was in studying engineering. And the first thing that came out of his mouth was telling me that, no, he doesn't think that engineering is a good fit for a woman. That why don't I look at other social science courses and all. And I think we spent almost 3 to 4 hours, debating and discussing on how I should, as a woman, I shouldn't really go into engineering because of how demanding it is. And that one day I would end up getting married, I would end up having kids and a family, and engineering takes a lot from a woman. And I think since that conversation, there was this kind of a drive in me that kept pushing me, and pushing me. And coming to the end of secondary school, I remember everybody in my set going for medicine, and something just kept on telling me that I should go for engineering in my jam. And I did that, and I'm glad that I did it now. And since then, actually, I've been trying to, develop myself in such a way that I'll be able to be like an inspiration to other girls. Aside from that as well, at the university, I decided to be able to be intentional, with whatever it is that I do. And part of the things that I realize is that I hear a lot from people that I have leadership capacities, I have leadership skills. And one thing that I did was to take advantage of that, be involved in student activities, student bodies, and stuff like that. So I led the Society of Petroleum Engineers chapter in my university. And I think it was something really great that I could learn from. For the first time in the history of the students' technical conference that they do, they've never come to Abuja to do it because, as we know, Abuja is not a petroleum environment. Okay, no problem. So Abuja is like not like a petroleum industry, kind of environment. So I remember also, insisting, giving them all the reasons why they will have to come to Abuja for the first time to do that. And imagine bringing all the oil and gas industry leaders to Abuja, taking them off from Lagos and Port Harcourt. So at the end of the day, that was something that was successful. And I think it was one of the first steps that I used to actually identify my leadership skills. So I think this was a personal story that makes me, every day to keep striving hard, and also showing other girls that, leadership is, you're born to be a leader. And then after that, you strive hard to get to wherever you want to be.
Fantastic. Fascinating stories. Thank you for sharing that. I remember somebody told me that the problem with girls is that boys aspire to be astronauts, engineer, doctor, surgeon. Girls aspire to be female astronaut, female engineer, female surgeon, and female doctor. Thank you for not aspiring to be a female engineer, but simply aspiring to be an engineer.
An engineer, absolutely.
Amanda, what's your story?
Okay, well, so my story was, it came out from depression. So I graduated from the university and with good grades, read business administration, but graduating after graduating, you have this feeling and this confidence that, oh, you're going to land yourself a wonderful job. So 2 months down the line, 6 months down the line, no job is coming. And I was really depressed. I was so anxious. I was worried, a lot of expectations, both from your family, your siblings, and even yourself or the society. And fast forward to a year and 2 months, somebody advised me that I participate in an IBM training on data science. Now, I was reluctant because I didn't have any technical skills. I didn't have any computer science background. But when I went to the IBM in Churchgate, I saw the ambience, I saw how things were so, it was looking like this is the dream job I want. I decided I had to put in my best. And after the training, it was very rigorous and all. I excelled good enough, and they were working alongside with Wave Academy, where they're going to be pairing them with jobs. But I told myself that I'll be going back to a leaky unemployment pipeline. Why don't I rather create an initiative that will equip young people like me? Because trust me, 3 in every 10 graduates, or let me just say 3 in every 8 graduates, do not have technical skills upon graduating. So it's all about certificates and all, but not being totally certified or not being grounded with future focus options or skills. So I started that initiative where I can rather let people be aware that there are wonderful and lucrative opportunities, not just in technology, but in STEM. And that was how I began STEMI Makers Africa. It has been a movement that has even gone beyond Nigeria and other 19 sub-Saharan countries. But that tells you that this is a loophole that has been existing in our continent, and somebody needed to step up. So that's just a brief of how I began.
Fantastic. Thank you. Again, you had the option of being a female data scientist. You just chose to be a data scientist. Well done. COVID and the crisis that we're dealing with has shown us what many of us females know anecdotally, that women are better at managing crisis. Not because their blood is different, not because not because they're physically different, but because growing up, I think innately, we're all forced to learn a variety of skills because society, doesn't matter what class you are from, what economic class you're from, society places an obligation on you, and there's an unconscious bias for the people that raise all of us about how a girl should behave, what a girl should learn, and how subtly, if you're not conscious, we raise girls differently. We allow them to express emotion, so they learn empathy. At times of crisis, it is an invaluable skill. Empathy in particular. It's not about strength or brute force, but about showing that you understand where somebody is coming from. And that empathy helps us to make decisions that can help navigate crisis better. So we've seen fine examples during COVID of servant, collaborative, compassionate, and efficient leadership in the past year. And it appears that if you look across countries, of the 194 countries, a recent survey found that women-led nations actually have a better handle on COVID. Not only were infection rates generally lower, fatality rates were also noticeably lower. I've given my own views about why I think it is. Why do you think it is? Amanda, you go first this time.
Yes. So, for example, since last year, a lot of people have been admiring the Minister of New Zealand because, there's this flyer I saw that, she just gave birth, she just emerged into the position and everything, people are like, oh, amidst these challenges, this woman excelled. I've seen this trend happen over time, sadly. For example, in the work that we do in STEMI Makers Africa, we find out that women are more passionate about what you are doing. So the first thing that they're doing is that the first thing that comes to their head is impact. But I can tell you that some males will come in and say, what's in it for me? Or I'm joining, I want to have a recommendation letter and all. So I've seen that happen. And apart from me saying, okay, it could be psychological, I feel that women have naturally, especially in Africa, I can't say for other Western world, women have been trained unconsciously to be mothers. To be mothers. You may have siblings. I have siblings, for example. I have junior ones. So on a random, I always call them to ask how they're doing. But they have like an elder brother that doesn't call them. It's not like he doesn't care. He cares. But he's not expressive. And because of we are more expressive, we put that expression into the work we do. So you find out that women like you, for example, or women like Hajara are doing their best. It's not like others are not doing their best, but you are putting in passion into it. And once you start putting passion into it, I can say that women should keep it up, but not leave the males behind. Because once raising irresponsible men. It's not like they want to be, but it's because society is paying much attention to women rather than grooming these men who will treat women better and who will treat society better.
Thank you. Excellent question. Excellent response. And the example of the Prime Minister of New Zealand is a fascinating one. But, you know, I always say we didn't need to go to New Zealand. In your village, in my village, there are examples of women. Our mothers, in the time of our mothers and grandmothers, women were juggling all these balls as well. Hajara, why do you think women are doing so much better?
So I think actually it would be traced back to, I would say it's in every woman's DNA. You know, the empathy, the intelligence, the loving nature, the ability to communicate and talk. I think it's all part of what makes us women. And for the COVID-19, we've actually seen incredible women that have done a lot of things, you know, to be able to bridge that gap that we have. And even outside of Nigeria, as Amanda mentioned, we could see the leadership of New Zealand, Iceland, and Finland. All these great women came out and actually fought COVID-19. When developed countries like the US, you know, were lagging way behind in the fight of COVID-19, we could see that these women actually stood in front, despite all the hurdles that they were going through. And I'm sure they had families as well, husband issues, children issues, family as well, and then coupled with the leadership. So all of these things. So you could see that I think women are naturally multitaskers. And coming back to our households as well, we are all mothers, and we can see the way our parents brought us up. Some of our parents were not fortunate to perhaps maybe work or pursue a career, but what they do at home can even multiply what a career woman does, like times 10 of it. But what makes a career woman different is that she's also adding her career to whatever it is that she's doing as a mother as well at home. So I think the one thing that was distinct, the one difference that I could pick out from women being the best of leaders during this COVID-19 is the fact that they were able to think critically, they were able to project their emotions over time. They were also able to see things clearly. Because if you look at it, whenever we call leadership, it's only men that comes to a lot of people's minds. Women are barely seen as strategic or visionary leaders. All they are seen is, this has to do with all this gender parity, you know, gender bias and things like that. We have it in our heads that women are just, you know, they're just there. There's a particular barrier or boundary to where they can reach. But I think over time, we've seen, you know, the difference. There are a lot of women that have broken the glass ceiling. They have shattered it and already fixed it wrong. Women like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. You know, there are a lot of women that are doing exceptionally well. Even here in Nigeria, we could see Amina Mohammed from the United Nations. There are a lot of women doing exceptional things. So I believe that we're looking up to them. We're getting there. And for the countries that have tackled the COVID-19, we're so happy for them. And we hope that the men the men-led countries would actually also learn from what they are doing, because it's all about collaboration at the end of the day.
There's an example they use in investment banking. There's an expression called a falling dagger. And a falling dagger happens when the market is falling, you are buying shares, but the market continues to fall. So you essentially continue to lose value. It's called a falling dagger. If you look at the Fortune 500, it almost always appears that for many of them, when they hand the mantle over to a female leader, it is at a time when the company is facing incredible crisis that it may not survive from.
Exactly.
Yahoo is a good example that comes to mind. When Yahoo had its first female lead, it was at a time of incredible crisis. And even if she was running with 4 legs, she would have struggled anyway. I wish Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala the best. I like the fact that she's the first woman, she's the first African. But we're at an unusual time in the world of trade. And I hope that she turns what may look like a falling dagger into, great value.
That's true.
With COVID, what are the biggest challenges that you've seen, the biggest lessons that you've learned in the course of the incredible work that you are both trying to do? And how do you continue to survive despite COVID? Actually, that's not the correct expression. It's not about surviving despite COVID. It's about thriving despite COVID. How have you continued to thrive despite COVID? This time, Amanda, you're going to go first. So we'll just do it in.
Share. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, no
so in South Africa, for example, knowing that our beneficiaries are mostly coming from underserved communities or underrepresented communities, you have communities that are having difficulty in accessing internet or mobile phones, because now you are training them, you are giving them tools. Some of these schools, for example, may not be able to afford it. Now we built an LMS, for example, and we say, oh, we're going to be onboarding the schools with little or no internet. But now you go to their locations and you find out that internet is one thing for your platform to take very little internet. Is another thing for that community to have access to the internet, to at least access it. So we found out that these challenges was existing. But we had to go about it. We didn't want to give ourselves excuse. We said excuse is not an excuse. So we started to re-strategize. But why I'm saying this is COVID-19 really it really took everybody by surprise. But it was a wake-up call for not just our kind of initiative, but for us as a community. Are we ready? Health-wise, economically wise, welfare-wise, we were not ready. And it really, really affected the way operations were. So even if we were getting everything all figured out, we had like a system that wasn't too favorable for this. But like I said, we had to navigate it. We started doing in-person trainings, but limiting the numbers or sending in resource tools, but then you have to print them all out and send it to the schools just to ensure that they were, keeping the students more in the loop of STEM, because the whole idea about STEMI is to ensure that science, technology, engineering, mathematics is really, really exciting for students. So to demystify that myth that, science is hard and all. So that was how we overcame. Then on the second arm, which was really important, was mentorship for women and girls. So before COVID, there's been social exclusion. So when COVID happened, social exclusion doubled up. So we had, for example, in Tanzania, where some communities that we usually go visit for mentorship were complaining that 3 girls got pregnant and they were just 14 years old. So these concerns, yes, it happened. And like they say, devil's mind and idle mind is the devil's workshop, because they were not engaged. They were just, and not that I blame them and not that I blame society. We just had to start saying, we need to engage these girls more. We need to start pairing them, even if we're not having online mentoring, but we need to start looking out for volunteers who would at least go to these communities, even if it's 3 times in a month or 4 times in a month, to ensure that they are giving them activities to do, they are engaging them, they are talking to them, and most importantly, they are instilling confidence in them, because it's one thing to have confidence as young women and girls. So that's true life. That's true life story anyway.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing it. Hajara.
That was a really nice story, Amanda. And it actually got me thinking, during the COVID-19, what exactly did I personally do that, helped me to keep my sanity? And I think a lot of people battled with it, especially because I live with my nieces and nephews. So they're all below the age of 10. So you could imagine, I'm sure if you have them at home, you could imagine how stressful life was going to be, at the midst of you trying to figure out your own life, and then they were always there. And I remember every day them coming telling me that they are bored, they need this and they need that. So of course I help people, I help girls, I help boys with all the STEM things that I do. And I decided that, okay, why don't I begin charity at home? And we sat down, we made like a comprehensive timetable of what to do, what they should learn and all. And I think that was something that also really helped me, because along the line, I figured that it wasn't really petroleum engineering that was my passion as well. In as much as STEM was the passion, I felt like, okay, there was something more that I needed to, look into and look out for. And that was when I also started my own personal development journey. COVID-19 in a way has negatively impacted on our lives, but then I decided to take it as something positive. I saw it as something positive and decided to leverage on it. And with a lot of mentorship, everybody telling you this is the right thing to do. And for us, the petroleum engineers, the industry is moving towards the data science, and courses like that. And I felt like, okay, let me just give it a try. Let me find out what this data science is about. So I took that first step, and I think that first step just told me that, girl, look, this is not meant for you. I dropped that aside, I kept on looking for other options. And that was when I came across sustainable energy. I started researching on it. I started having online courses, and things like that. And then by the end of COVID-19 lockdown period, I was sure that this was what I wanted to go into. And since then, I've picked it up from there. And as for the other kids as well, I'm sure they also figured a lot of things out, because a lot of things that we did were not what school has done, building activities, all this science projects and all. We actually had a lot of fun. So it also kept their own sanity. It kept their mom's sanity, because they were always fighting. And it also kept mine as well, and helped me to figure out where I want to move ahead in life.
Interesting. They say you cannot tell a person by just looking at them. You have to hear their story. I've really enjoyed hearing, the stories that both of you have shared today, and I appreciate your sharing it. So I'm going to go.
Thank you.
To the next question. In your journey, you've shared some of the biases that you dealt with. You shared some of the challenges. What do you think the world will be like for those coming after you? I mean, what do we need to do now to change some of those biases for them and the kind of challenges that they will need to deal with? The challenges that I dealt with in my own time are different from the ones that you are dealing with. But there's some challenges you are dealing with that I dealt with in my own time as well. What can we do to change conscious and unconscious biases for the next generation? So Hajara, you're going to go first, right?
Yeah, that's true. So I think for me is there are a lot of things to actually look at. And the fact that how do I even put it for you? So I think implicit bias, the whole concept of bias, to me, I think it's in each and every one of us. And that has to do with, for example, you just coming into a place and probably seeing a group of people, and perhaps just from looking at how a person looks, you know that, okay, this person is from my place. Or perhaps if just from looking at another person, you could just tell that I just don't like this person. And you haven't really opened up to have a conversation with that person. I feel like that's what naturally is in us as human beings. And one of the best things for us to do that would help the future generations is when we begin to break this these barriers that we set for ourselves. We find out that even in the workplace, at times, if you're from the same place as your boss, or if you have the same traits, or just something that makes the two of you, click, that bias that is there, you find out that a person is actually being favored, and it might not even be intentional. It might just be just because of that particular thing that makes the two of them click. That's why they are, doing that. And I think as leaders, because that's what we're all striving here to do, and that's what Athena40 is all about. I think the first thing we should do is for us to be able to learn the moral of intentionality. Whatever it is that we do, we have to be intentional about it. It doesn't matter if this person's color is this, or if this person is from this place, or he's not from my place, or even just, not just liking a person for just seeing them at the first instance, or whatever the case may be. I think the first thing is for us to be able to change our understanding. And that would be the first step for us to be able to make the world a better place. And I think the second thing is that we have to learn to be empathetic. In one way or the other, we all feel like we are better than someone in a particular, point or anything. And we'll find out that sometimes a person can bring, just someone needs a shoulder to cry on, and they come to you, and the first thing you do is just try to jump to give them, help, or just to conclude on this is how to do it or not. But I think one thing I've learned in just my little lifespan, I've realized that sometimes you just have to give somebody a listening ear. The person knows what to do, he knows how to figure things out, but he just needed somebody that will listen to him. And personally, I'm the kind of person that always helps to give. I'm a solution-driven person. When you begin to tell me something, the first thing that comes to my mind is, what's the solution? And I realized that with life, it's always not like that. And by the time we begin to show empathy, amongst the group of people that we mingle with, I think that would also help as well in trying to change how our intentions are, and also make the world a better place for the people that are yet to come.
Fantastic. Thank you. Amanda.
Okay, one of the things that I know we can do now is having this understanding that collaboration is the new competition. Sometime years back, people find it pretty difficult to partner with you, or to work alongside with you, or to even be allies. The world now is changing. There is no competitor. We are all for, so far you are in the social good space, you should be open to collaborating. We should rather be looking at complementing each other. It's just like recently I was saying, yes, it's good that we celebrate women, but we should also be looking at raising men. Because it's these men that, if we don't raise, are going to probably beat up or molest or intimidate a woman that you have built, to be a leader. So there has to be this allyship. There has to be this consciousness, to build an equitable country or society. So that's one of the things that I know that, it hasn't happened over time, but it's something that we should build towards the future. And at the same time, giving women, especially, sorry, I'm coming back to women should start being free to dream and free to excel. We've not seen that happen over time. There are certain kind of career that those days, if you say, oh, you want to be this, your parents will say, no, those are for boys. But now, we should be able
Doctor
to...
is for boys and female doctor is for girls.
Yes, we should be telling young girls that if you can dream it, you can do it. And we should also give them that moral support. Most times all people just need is a word of encouragement. that settles it. So it's about, allyship, collaborating. I could collaborate one time with Yewande or Hajara. You never can tell. So far we are for social good. So far we are for impact. We should cross ways. So I hope that helps.
Yes, very useful.
Absolutely.
Very useful. You both talked about empathy. You talked about collaboration, the importance of balance. And I like the comment about the bias that is actually in all of us, and the moral of intentionality. Is empathy really that important at a time of crisis? Amanda? Amanda, I'm conscious of the fact that you said you had to go. So
Yes.
we'll take one more question after this, and then we'll wrap it up so that I allow people to get on with your day.
Sorry. Yes, I was just about texting you now. Well, trust me, empathy plays a great role. Empathy comes with emotional intelligence. We've seen empathy close wars. We've seen empathy end wars, end conflict. We've seen empathy drive economy. So empathy cannot be ruled out. We need empathy. Empathy now, I don't want to say it's a skill, but I want to say it's something that we should consciously start to develop. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this.
Thank you. Hajara?
Yes, absolutely. As I said earlier on, I think the empathy is actually what helps you get through a lot of things. And during times of crisis, I think what people need is assurance. They need to be reassured that things are going to be all right, things are going to be fine. And the best of the leaders, as we've seen from world examples all over the world and people around us, is that we have kept getting assurance that things would be fine, even though we know that things were not going to be fine. And I think in a way that actually helped a lot of people, to keep their sanity, to help them through the days. And especially like, for example, and a very good example, I think, is even keeping all this pandemic and everything aside. As a woman, imagine if maybe your child has a very serious illness or anything. I think there's nothing like peace again for you. And I think one thing that would help a woman, that one thing that helps a woman through such critical situations is when people come to visit, or when people close to her or her loved ones continue telling you that don't worry, things are going to be all right. This is not a big deal. The doctor will do this. And even, so just imagine if a person is going through a very, very critical or bad time, and you just decide to tell the person, good words, give them listening ears and things like that. I think it actually goes a long way. The person also knows that what you're telling him might not be true, but the fact that you're actually taking, the time or the step to explain to them that, okay, this is it. They know that, yes, what you're saying is not correct, but the fact that you're giving them that empathy, you're empathizing with them, I think it goes a long way. And so does when it happens during leadership.
Fantastic. Thank you. I mean, it's been a really engaging conversation with the two of you. It's a shame Amanda has had to go, but she'd indicated earlier that she needed to join something. We were supposed to, I need to go back to the London room. Since it's just a conversation that we're recording for them to hear live, I don't think we need to bother with Q&A so that we can all get
absolutely.
But I've really enjoyed the conversation with you and Amanda today. Hajara, thank you very much for joining the discussion. I hope we do.
Thank you very much.
And we might find another platform for continuing the conversation. But
yeah, absolutely, we should.
Very nice chatting with you. I particularly like the concept of the moral. We all need to learn the moral of intentionality.
Intentionality, absolutely.
I had said at another session earlier this morning that the biases we have were unconsciously established. Accidents of history, but unconsciously established, and that we need to now need to consciously deal with those biases. But I like the moral of intentionality. Thank you. Really
Thank you
enjoyed
very
it.
much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.